Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Just while we were walking along and coming in here, you might like to see that this is the sort of scene you would have seen back in 1820s, 1830s. The Bowers Walk was actually a walk for the ladies of the Kenny household, and they were disturbed by the carts that would be passing on the road in front of the house, so they had an underground tunnel that facilitated the ladies walking under the road and coming out onto their garden, because that would have been the Kenny garden. These two bollards that are here were probably originally where the base of the metal bridge is. And what they were, these two bollards, they would have had a kind of with a little punt, and you could pull the string and pull yourself across the river. It was to facilitate the infantry barracks here behind me, as I was saying on the way in, and then the cavalry barracks over there if the soldiers were on time out or anything. And that there was a little roadway right up to the centre of town. From those steps, across the bridge and up town. The biggest thing here is I wanted to show you the width of the River Row at that time, before the canal was built. There is a bridge here, as you can see. Here it's showing a 3-bay bridge, but we know that from 1823 there was actually a 9-bay bridge here in Ballinrobe, and we have a drawing by Partry, who was very accurate in his drawings, and you can see the 9-bay bridge here. So it's hard to believe how wide the river was. There's 1-bay bridge there, one bay. But there was 9 originally. So that'll give you, the river was far, far, far wider. There were actually little islands in the river, here and there. And there was a clapper bridge, which was the greatest find ever. And the clapper bridge, he has it drawn in here. And on the map of Ballinrobe, the 1833 hand-drawn map for the Knox family of Ballinrobe, the clapper bridge is marked on it. So we have kind of double proof that there was a clapper bridge here. But the river was so shallow that the people would use the bridge and they'd walk the cattle in the water. So along came the idea of making a connection between Ballinrobe and Galway. And they decided they'd do it through a series of canals. The towpath along here stretches for about 4 kilometres and around it connects with the Lough Mask, the road to the lake. So it's a lovely walk for people along what would have been the planned tow bridge for towing boats or barges along. You can see the bollards where they would berth the boats or tie the boats up. Down where that apartment block is, there's a large turning area where they could turn the boats, because this was the end of the line, so they turned the boats around and again drove them along the towpath as far as the other metal bridge. At that point, they decided, apart from the problem with the water, but the locomotives had come in and they decided they were going to put rail networks all over the country, and that wiped out the idea of being able to get to Galway, to Cong, onto Lough Corrib, from here onto Lough Mask, down to Cong and all the way to Galway, out to the Atlantic, where they were importing all sorts of things from, wine from Bordeaux and exporting all the sort of products that they would normally have done at the time. So there is a lock at the end of this canal, which ends at the second bridge, but it's too far to walk to today. We don't have time. But at your ease, you could walk down there and have a look at the bridge, and you'll also see the infantry barracks on the other side of the river. And there's a salmon weir down at the second metal bridge. There wasn't salmon in Lough Mask, obviously, but they anticipated when they opened up the canal between the Corrib and the Mask that the salmon would come up from the Mask River. Now, I don't know whether that would have happened or not, but the salmon weir is there for the fish to come all the way up.